From 3 News Now and the Omaha World-Herald, this is Omaha Sunday Morning with Jennifer Griswold.
This week on Omaha Sunday Morning, with summer right around the corner, bicyclists are ready to hit the streets. But this year you might spot a different kind of bike around Omaha, why e-bikes are growing in popularity. And craft brews seem to be taking over the beer scene here in Nebraska, and that's leading to new business opportunities outside the brewery. Today we'll go inside Nebraska's first commercial malt house. Good morning and thanks for joining us this Sunday. I'm Jennifer Griswold. What do you feed a rhino for lunch? Sounds like the title to a children's book, but it's a serious question at Omaha's Henry Doorly Zoo and Aquarium. The zoo staff plans the diets for all the animals, but how do you know what to feed animals that are normally only observed from afar in the wild? Omaha World-Herald visual journalist Sarah Hoffman went to the zoo to find out how the staff comes up with the right menu.
We have a huge number of species here at the Omaha Zoo, and each of those species has different requirements for nutrients and diet items. We feed a huge variety of produce to a lot of our herbivores, so really any fruit or vegetable or green that you can think of, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of produce and meat. Diet is a huge part of what keeps us healthy, both mentally and physically, so we're trying to make sure that we're meeting all of the mental and physical needs of our animals on a daily basis by providing varied and nutritionally complete diets. Vampire bats that we have specialize on mammalian prey, which is why we feed them a beef blood diet. In the wild, vampire bats will usually make like a small incision on a prey animal, and then their saliva has anticoagulant properties, so they will sit on the animal and kind of lick the blood off.
With every animal, we'll look at what their normal behaviors are in the wild, what their environmental conditions are that they normally have adapted to in the wild, and then within the zoological setting we try to do as much as we can to bring those conditions and situations in so that they exhibit the same behaviors here that they would in the wild for, normal, healthy, natural behaviors. And that's where the prey diet comes into play, because naturally they would be hunting in the wild.
Six full-time employees and more than a dozen volunteers buy, store, prep, and pack the animals' food every day. So how much food are we talking? 1,200 pounds of bananas, 750 heads of romaine lettuce, and mass quantities of other fruits, vegetables, and meat blends each week. When you picture pedal-assisted bikes or electric bikes, you probably don't think of them rolling around the streets of Omaha. But one local bike shop owner is changing the way Omahans get around. 3 News Now anchor Emily Zink shows us how the e-bike business is booming.
This down, turn it on.
Don't let the SUVs in Sarah Johnson's driveway fool you.
Bikes just put a smile on your face.
Most of her time is spent on 2 wheels. Johnson, the owner of Omaha Bicycle Company in Benson, rides to work most days, rain, shine, and even snow.
That's it.
But an extremely painful physical condition almost put the brakes on Johnson's livelihood.
Your whole life revolves around something that then you physically can't do. It's kind of upsetting.
Her boyfriend Scott suggested she hop on an electric bike.
Eco mode shows you have 42 miles.
You still pedal, but the bike does most of the work for you.
There's a torque sensor. I used to be of the impression that you were cheating if you're riding an electric bike.
It just took a test ride to sell Johnson on the idea.
I think I'm kind of an evangelist.
Her shop started selling them about a year and a half ago.
We just can hardly keep them in stock. It's been really cool to watch the increase in the trend.
Johnson has sold close to 2 dozen so far. She recently received the New Dealer of the Year award from e-bike manufacturer Blix.
I don't sell them, they sell themselves.
Of course, I wanted to try the bike that could go 50 miles on a single battery charge.
Just pedal. It's just like a regular bike.
I loved it.
You're such a good sport.
But I'm not in the market for a new bike like DeJuan Hayes once was. After selling his car in 2014 and moving back to North Omaha, Hayes needed something reliable and easy on his body.
The bus is handy, but it's really nice to be able to get on something and just zip away.
Hayes says his e-bike reaches speeds of 25 miles per hour. Omaha's hills don't give him a problem, and he doesn't worry about the cost or maintenance of a car.
This was $2,200, and that's it. It's mine, I own it.
And if you loathe looking for parking or paying, Hayes has a suggestion for you.
If you're like, I don't want to pay parking fees anymore, get a bike, especially an e-bike.
The price of an e-bike starts around $1,500, but owners say the plus side is you never have to worry about paying for gas or registering it. Starting a family is a huge step for many couples, and sometimes it doesn't go exactly as they planned. For those struggling with infertility, it is an emotional roller coaster. But one family is now sharing their story, hoping to help others who want to become parents. That story when Omaha Sunday Morning continues. When a couple with infertility issues wants to build their family, it can be tough to decide the path that's right for them. There's one option that many people don't think of, even though it's been around for decades. In today's Your Family Now, we meet Waterloo couple Travis and Annette Wells and hear their journey with embryo adoption. You'll often find the Wells family outside their Waterloo home. With kids ages 11, 7, and twin 3-year-olds, they need to get the wiggles out.
These kids are loved and cared for, and they're ours.
But what you wouldn't know by watching them play
Good job, bud.
is the unique way the Wells family came to be.
My husband and I knew long before we were married that adoption was going to be the way that we grew our family.
Because of an infertility issue, they adopted Cornelius from Guatemala as a baby. They planned to adopt more children this way.
And then Guatemala closed their adoptions, and so we were looking for another option.
They chose the Snowflakes Embryo Adoption program. Here's how it works. A family that has a child through in vitro fertilization may have frozen embryos that are never implanted. There are at least 600,000 of these in the U.S.
And they really have 3 choices with those embryos. They can leave them frozen indefinitely, they can donate them for science, and or they can give them up for adoption.
Annette received hormone treatments and then was able to carry 3 of her children, Corbin, and years later, twins Katie and Cora.
And then I got to enjoy all of the wonderful parts of being pregnant, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Many people also see embryo adoption as a good fit for religious reasons. The Wells family believes life begins at conception.
You are giving a life a chance to grow and to mature and to see what the potential is in these little frozen embryos. And it's just been a true blessing to our whole family.
A loving family bonded by something much more powerful than DNA.
We don't have a lot of money in the bank, but we do have a lot of love in our house. And that's more important to us than anything.
As for the cost of embryo adoption, it's generally considered less expensive than other types of adoption and in vitro fertilization. You can also decide whether you want to have an open or closed adoption. We have that information and more resources on our website, 3newsnow.com. When a mother suffers a miscarriage, it is a devastating loss. Now, a new Nebraska law aims at helping those moms heal. The Summer family helped push for that law that honors babies lost after less than 20 weeks in the womb. Families will now be able to get a certificate of life. Jennifer and Andy Summer say working for the law will help both them and other families.
We're fighting for them. Fighting for them and for their lives and bringing that recognition to them that they matter and these families aren't alone.
The Summers say this kind of loss affects many people in addition to the mother, so this law will also help fathers and other family members as well. How many times have you gone in your closet and gotten rid of something you only wore one time? University of Nebraska Omaha students are trying to combat clothing waste as part of Earth Week. Lindsay Thies shows us why they're trying to keep unwanted clothes from a landfill.
Good morning.
UNO student Justin Cipolla says last year an Earth Week event at UNO caught his eye.
So much clothes.
This year, he's running it.
I went last year. It was the first time I ever went, and it was a completely new experience to me because I didn't know they did this event, and I was just like, well, what's going on? This clothes is, they're free, you know, I can just take them. And that's really beneficial for a college student because we're on a budget usually. Yours have like the little nooks for this thing?
Yeah.
Like one of those?
For the 4th year in a row, students like Justice have arranged for a clothing swap. Before today, students and teachers dropped off items, new or gently used, to be sorted. In total, 230 pounds of clothing were up for grabs today. The hopes? Keep it from the landfill.
According to the EPA, last year, more than 15 million tons of textile waste were produced in the United States alone. The average American threw away more than 80 pounds of used clothing.
Like being eco-friendly and being green can be an everyone thing. Everyone can do a really small piece, take a really small piece out of their day and do something that can make them more eco-friendly, and it is something that affects everyone in some way or the other.
Any outfits today that didn't get swiped at the swap don't automatically go to the trash can. They're headed to the Women's Center for Advancement in Sienna Francis House, paying it forward one step, or should I say one carbon footprint, at a time.
UNO students also held a recycling count this week. Volunteers took all the material from the trash and recycling bins around Mammal Hall on campus and sorted through it. Lucky Bucket, Nebraska Brewing Company, Scriptown, and Fusion, all local breweries turning out Nebraska craft beers. Now that boom is creating a business venture of another kind. When Omaha Sunday Morning continues, we sit down with the state's first barley malt producers. The craft beer scene is booming across the nation, and more brewers are setting up shop here, crafting hoppy IPAs and rich porter brews. Now a pair of Omaha entrepreneurs are getting in the game, providing a much-needed ingredient. Omaha World-Herald visual journalist Brendan Sullivan takes us to the state's first commercial malt house.
A lot of people are more familiar with hops, but malt is really the thing that actually allows beer to ferment. That's kind of where all the magic happens that really makes it usable for beer. It's kind of the secret, and maybe I would say maybe underappreciated ingredient. So we are Missouri Valley Malt. We work at basically bringing raw barley ingredients in and then converting it into malt, which is the sort of the base product for most beer. So that's actually the source of where the sugars that turn in and ferment into alcohol. And so it's kind of the primary ingredient outside of water that gets used.
We started out 3 years ago with an idea, and really 3 years down the road, now we finally have this facility where we've scaled up to a 1,000-pound malt system where we can steep, germinate, and kiln 1,000 pounds of barley each week.
Barley hasn't really been grown in Nebraska historically for brewing purposes, and it's kind of a very specialized version of barley. And so we actually grow it and work with these other partners, then bring it in here. And then it goes through this sort of 3-step process where and what we do is called floor malting, sort of this traditional version of malting where we bring it in and we soak the grain in water, go through this process of soaking it, letting it dry, and repeat that a few times, and then we move it to just an open concrete floor where we spread the grain out in a bed. And that, over those next few days, is where it germinates and it really starts to develop, forms all the enzymes, starches, sugars, and everything that are going to be needed in the brewing process.
So when it comes in the door, it's barley. When it goes out the door, it's malt. That's the simplest way. When it's here, it's somewhere in between.
Kind of called this Missouri Valley Malt version 1.5. So we started off with a pilot scale kiln that did 100 pounds of barley at a time. And we literally were running that out of our basement. You could either, we could dry our clothes or we could kiln our barley. We just exchanged the same power cord. So that's really where we started. So this is kind of that next step up to say, okay, we can scale this a little bit and let's prove out that we have a product that people want. We're kind of, in some ways, sort of writing the script for how this works and trying to figure it out here in the state and around the area. So obviously nerves as well, you get to this point and you just don't know. You hope it works, you hope people like it, and they're as excited about it as you are, but there's no guarantee. So it's, I think that's the fun part of it too, is that it's not the safe route, but any business owner knows, if you enjoy the process, it's totally worth it.
Another fun fact about these two entrepreneurs, they were part of the first all-Nebraska beer brewed in the state. A shockingly big bill for farm fertilizer spurred a new business venture for one Nebraska family. With her husband away for National Guard training, a Nebraska wife and mom to 4 came up with a plan to diversify their family farm. Now, 2 years later, they are just one of a growing number of farmers taking on livestock to ensure the future of the farm.
This is the most curious, troublemaking animal that you'll ever run across in the animal kingdom. They like to bite and chew and get into things, kind of like my kids. We have fun with the pigs here on the farm, so we really enjoy the day-to-day and taking good care of these pigs.
When Justin and I got married, the military's always been a very big part of our life, and so is farming. So he's in the Army National Guard, and he had been gone for a couple months. I just wanted to find a way to make our farm more sustainable so that our children could have a future farming. I looked into custom feeding hogs and fell in love with the mash-off, the idea of the mash-offs.
My wife and I, Melissa, we take a lot of pride in taking care of pigs here on our farm, so we want to instill that those same qualities in our kids, good work ethic, animal husbandry, and hopefully they'll continue our heritage into the future.
I love bacon, and I love it because that makes you grow. It's delicious.
Pigs are a special animal. They're very intelligent, and sometimes that can make them a little rude, I guess, for lack of a better word. It takes a lot of grit and patience and commitment to take care of pigs. A good meal can bring people together, family or friends. It is always important to me to put a good meal on the table, and anybody that's there is always welcome. You know, my door is always open and there's always a seat at my table.
When I grow up, I want to live somewhere near here and help mom and dad farm when I get older. And I really want to have a hog barn when I get older and have a farm and have cows and all sorts of different animals.
Pigs will eventually be used to go to the meat market here in Nebraska. And our goal here is to put a good, safe food product on the table for all the people here and across the nation, as well as overseas. We just do the best we can to take good care of these pigs so that they can feed the world.
The family has about 2,500 hogs on their farm. We'll be right back with more Omaha Sunday Morning after the break. Politics can be a divisive topic. Jeff Katurba is tackling a story he thinks might just bring people together.
I'm Jeff Katurba. I am the editorial cartoonist for the Omaha World-Herald.
What do you know?
former FBI Director James Comey has a new book. Who knew? Seriously, you can't get away from him. I mean, the guy has been doing interviews promoting his book everywhere. And while there are lots of other important stories out there, Comey's book tour is doing some good. I mean, not just for his pocketbook, but for the country. So much so, I drew a cartoon about it. I mean, think about it. This country continues to be so divided. Red versus blue, right versus left. At least that's what you might believe if you live your life exclusively on social media. I still think most Americans are reasonable folk. Maybe I'm naive, but I choose to believe that even if I don't see eye to eye with you, we can still sit down over a cup of coffee and agree to disagree in a civil manner. Anyway, back to Comey bringing the country together. Let's face it, he upset a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters by the way he handled Hillary's email probe. And it goes without saying that he hasn't exactly made Trump supporters very happy. And after all, Comey was fired by the president himself. So look, maybe James Comey is doing some good out there promoting his new book. Maybe now Hillary's people and Trump's people can finally come together and agree on something. Me, I'll just keep reading. Hey, he didn't sign my copy.
That's all for this week. Thanks for watching.